Welcome, travelers. I'm Josh.
And I'm Lewanika, and this is Tabletop Journeys, where we will be your not-so-humble guides on the quest for RPG adventures.
All right, welcome everybody to what is going to be a string of episodes here at Tabletop Journeys. We're trying some new things out since we're going to be talking about the latest book from Wizards of the Coast for D&D 5th edition. I see Michael sharing his book with all of his sticky notes. Anyone that has not seen us review a book episode before, yeah, this is what my books look like. Also, that's we are of kin in that, Michael. I say the old school Lewanika, always prepared Boy Scout that he is.
Yeah, I have the paper because I only have the digital at this time.
Yeah, fair point. Yeah. So, anyway, so without any further ado, let's, because I know you guys have been doing things over the last couple of weeks. Probably nothing major over the last couple of weeks has happened in either of your lives.
I've been bored.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't been traveling halfway across the country to go nowhere or nothing.
Yeah. So,
no. Yeah, big shout out. Michael, thank you again for running such a wonderful convention. Absolutely love going to a Catacon. Second year I've been able to be there and really just built on some of the wonderful friendships I started over a year ago, just talking with folks via your channel, but and certainly meeting them in person. But, shout outs to Rose, Kaylee, Ren, Michael, everybody that I just really spent my entire weekend hanging out with. It was just amazing. And lest I say, gaming with your son, Jacob, was amazing. Yeah. He blew the doors off the building. The DCC is hiring roofers because of that child.
Yeah, that was a proud papa moment for me. I would just quickly say, because I'm sure Josh is like, will you please stop talking about this? I am the face of a Catacon, better or worse. But if I disappear tomorrow, a Catacon can still happen. If those other folks, some of the ones you mentioned, and again, the other people that are behind the scenes, if they go away, I can't do it on my own. So it is absolutely a group project effort. I will happily take all the accolades. I do the least amount of work of anybody, but it's the convention that I want to go to. That's my kind of contributing factor, is all the decisions that I push into. Is this is supposed to be a convention about playing with your friends, and anything that makes it feel not that way, I push against. There's some things you just have to do for business reasons, but it truly is a convention about making friends, playing with friends, and being there with your friends. But enough of that, Josh, please.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah. I mean, while I will never tire of you talking about a Catacon, in fact, the more you talk about it, the less Lewanika wants to run our own convention. So please continue talking about how much work it is, and
it's a lot of work.
That's not true. That's not true.
All right,
tempered, but that's not true.
There's a joke in there somewhere, but all right. So without any further ado, so we are going to crack into, for the first time in a really long time, actually, we're going to crack into the latest book from Wizards of the Coast for D&D 5 in this new 2024 iteration. We're going to dive into the Dungeon Master's Guide. Now, we did not dive into the Player's Guide, somewhat accidentally on purpose, but I think that all of us kind of felt like diving into the DMG there was going to be important. We are storytellers at heart. We run a lot of games. We run a lot of Dungeons and Dragons. So I think that there was a lot to kind of dive into in this book. So we're going to break this up into a series of episodes, kind of talking about each individual chapter. And we're going to start tonight first with just kind of an overall impression of the book. Sorry, Michael, are you frozen or just really?
No, I'm sorry.
Oh,
my cat is outside the door meowing so loud. I'm trying to mute my microphone. Like, I was joking about having a fourth co-host. We have one because it has to be coming through my mic.
No, I couldn't hear a thing.
Okay, good. It's so loud in my ears. My apologies. I was trying to mute so you guys wouldn't hear it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
First blooper of the format, I think.
I know. I think exactly. Yeah. And
what are you doing?
December,
I'm shutting up the cat.
Yeah. Muting my cat in the background. Yeah. So, well, let's, Michael, as the kind of like stand-in or a part-time co-host and everything like that. Why don't you start tonight, sir? What throw out some thoughts. What do you
Okay.
think about the new DMG?
So I was very fortunate this year to go to Gen Con as one of the press, and I got an invite to a special D&D event where we were given the player's handbook, humble brag, but we also got a full presentation about some of the things that were coming, including the DMG. And one of the things that Jeremy Crawford kind of touted is that this is the first version of the book that actually teaches you how to play before it gives you the rules to do so. And so when I first started reading the book, I had that through my head. And I think the first 2 chapters, that's what they do. They're trying to teach you how to run the game. And then they start breaking down the rules. So I think that from that standpoint, it is successful. However, I think they lost the plot pretty early because this reads like a reference guide, not a training manual. And that is my biggest, I won't say disappointment, because I like the book. I think it's really good. Everything I've read so far, I'm like, yeah, good, good, good. But it's missing some things. Some of the information I think is in weird places. And I don't think they have enough examples. Like the ones they have, I'm like, great, more of those, please. So just right off the cuff, I would say that right now this is like a B in my head because it doesn't go in hard enough on training manual versus reference document.
Yeah. I'm very much in agreement with you on that. I think that, again, the first 2 chapters do a really, really nice job at laying out how to run a game in general, in very broad terms, and the types of things that you need to worry about when you're behind the screen.
Yep.
I think that for me, and Lewanika and I were talking about this earlier today, so he'll know this quote. I think that in some cases it's too much porridge and not enough beef. Right? They cover a lot of topics very superficially,
Yes.
and I wish that they did fewer topics deeper.
That's the whole reference document. It's like, if I'm like, oh, well, I can't remember how to do that, you can quickly find it and refresh yourself, but it doesn't really explain the intricacies of it to a point that if you're like, this is a great book if you already know how to play, even if it's only kinda. But if this was like, I don't know how to play, I'm going to buy this so I can learn to play the game, I don't think this does a great job of that.
Yep. As someone who has story told for 30 something years, this is a fantastic book for me.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Lewanika? How do you think?
I differ a bit on that opinion, but not vastly. So I actually hear your point, and though I may say some things that sound like they're totally in opposition, I don't intend it to be that. I think it's just, if we're on a spectrum going, rising up and rising down, right? Wherever you are, I'm probably a little to the side of where you are, but understanding everywhere where you are. I don't know if that works well because it's hard to visualize, but at any rate, I will just say this. I would probably say I've perused the entire book, but I have not deep dived into the entire book. I've only deep dived. I don't know. I've only really dug into chapters 1 through 5, right? So, but out of those first 5 chapters, I would probably go like A-. And the reason I say that is I am judging this as a person who came into 5e in 2018. The game had been around for 4 years. I started playing Adventures League, and I bought the 2014 DMG and found it to be largely useless. Now, part of that is my experience as a long time, at that point, 25 some odd year GM. There's just nothing in that book that really spoke to me as how to do this. It was neither enough specific rules to this game to be a good reference, nor was it any specific guidance as to how to build good games. So I figure my thought is the old book served no masters, right? This book, however, I think specifically those first 2 chapters excellently serve prospective GMs who've never done it before, new GMs, and novice GMs. And I think they are, as far as the other parts of this is where I agree with you. There could have been more examples. There could have been deeper examples. But my fear is when WotC specifically starts giving a lot of examples, it comes across as prescriptive. And when I play at conventions and when I play at local game shops and around groups of strangers, the level of prescription turns into this is the only way to play. And the message that's lost this is a way to play. So I think the less examples really help those novice GMs who are transitioning from printed adventures into homebrew adventures. Less examples and guidance on how to handle the situations actually serves them better. We're just not in a position to really gain much from that. We might want more examples so we can see this situation, that situation, or this other situation, but we've been doing it for 30, 40 years. We know what we have to and don't have to do. I think there's a sweet spot and a needle that Crawford and the crew were trying to thread. And if I put myself in the place of those GMs, and those are the ones that I talk to a lot when I'm out at my local shops, this actually, I think, I'm going to know more as I stay in those shops and gain their feedback directly. And as we hear back from our audience, please comment down below. I think we'll find out that it actually is that lack of example is actually specifically trying to serve that group of GMs.
So I will agree that's something I've tried to do, but I understand that it's not possible for me to read this book as if I'm a new person. I have all that experience, and so sometimes like I try to put it through the lens, but it's still not an accurate representation. So you might be entirely possible. I will just counter that. I go to conventions and I do talks about how to run games. I've been doing that for years, and a lot of the questions that I get would have been answered by a different version of this book. So I feel like I'm going to get the same questions next year as I did last year, even though this book's out there. So, and again, that's anecdotal, but my experience is that a lot of the things people are asking me to like help clarify, this book does not help clarify. So I'm still going to be hopefully useful at those panels and those talks. But I feel like this book, and the last thing I'll say again before I'll let Josh go is when 5th edition first came out, I really liked it. Still like, I think 5th edition is the best version of the game that's ever been made. I played all of them except for OD&D. But I tried to write a how to be a DM module, and I couldn't do it because it's really hard. It is really, really hard because there are so many if-then statements that you need to do. Like, this is what you do, and then the players roll like perception. If 2 of them pass and 3 of them fail, do this. If all of them fail, do this. If all of them pass, do this. And I kept getting lost in these so many segmented if-then statements that it just got unwieldy. It was no longer useful. So I understand that they could not write the book that I have in my head because I don't know that anybody could. But I think the version in my head is closer to what I would have wanted than what I get here. But again, I can't read this with new eyes. That may be the issue. So.
Yeah. So here's the question then that's on the table. As three gentlemen of age who have been at this for a long time. Yeah, exactly. Vintage disposition. Do you think you will be using this book at your table when you run games? If you're assuming that you're running D&D.
So yes and no. Just in the first few chapters, there are things that I thought exactly. I thought were good. It's like, these are good references. I haven't looked at the DM screen yet. So maybe some of the things I would use are on there. I haven't looked at it yet. But there are definitely charts in here that I think, oh, that's actually kind of useful. But for me, and this, I'm jumping to the art. I almost every piece of art, I was like, oh, that gives me an idea for an adventure. Oh, that gives me an idea for adventure. So this book has already inspired me for games that I'm going to be running. So for that, yes.
All right.
My answer to that is I will absolutely use this in D&D games and likely in some other RPG games I run, but it will most likely be used in the preparation stage. I try to GM without flipping through books. So but I always bring them. It's like I need the security blanket of having certain books with me. Yeah. Yes, it will be there. I would also say this about the book. Because I was bringing up my youngest son and deciding what books we would double buy in our household or not double buy, I only single bought the core book. So I do not own a physical copy of the 2014 Player's Guide or DMG. My son has those. My youngest is now 18. He's got a job. He's out of the house. I can guarantee you, if he was still living in my house, I would double buy this book. That I will go on record as saying. And to me, that's why I go A- on this, because there's no way I was double buying the 2014.
Yeah.
There's no way. I would have been satisfied to just have a digital copy of the 2014. And I don't usually go to it often unless it's answering an internet group argument.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't use the book.
Yep.
This is a book I'm going to go back to when I'm planning campaigns, when I'm planning adventures, when I'm creating situations, characters, all of that. NPCs, I'm going to do that. And that's despite some issues that we're going to get into as we go through the individual chapters.
Right. So I will agree with you guys also. I'm also a kind of a yes no on this. That I am, Lewanika, much like you, I am very glad that my game room is 20 feet down the hallway from where this book will be kept, so that I can always go ahead and grab it if I need it, everything like that. I think that there are pieces that will become very useful as I am planning sessions and planning adventures and stuff like that. And that may be a little bit of a spoiler about what I think the two strongest chapters in this book are. So we'll get to those when we get there. But yeah, I think that there are some things that are useful. I'm not sure it's going to be useful at the table, but I'm glad that I've got it for everything that happens away from the direct table. If I'm putting on my Dr. Homebrew hat a little bit, I wonder if I will start to pull some rules from this, because my tabletop game right now is based on the 2014 rules. We did not migrate to 2024, mostly because we started just before the 2024 rules came out. And so and they're mostly brand new players. So I'm going to kind of ease them into the aesthetic before we start changing everything. But I can see some rules from this, I think, starting to go ahead and come through. So, like Bastions is a great example. I think that's probably one of those things that pops in. So
I would add that I actually forwarded the rules that were found for ships and roles on a ship and stuff to Glenn, who's starting a home game that's going to be doing some piracy and high sea stuff.
Right.
And even though that is staying squarely in 2014, I thought these rules would be very useful and helpful. So I'm right with you. On the homebrew end, this is going to be a very instrumental planning and structure kind of book that I'm going to come back to time and time again.
I mean, let's call a spade, Lewanika. We wrote a book that included siege weapons. They did it better. They did it better than we did.
Yeah, so, I will call that out. Yep. I like what we did because that was in the absence of any of it in 2014. They took what we had and found a way to simplify it, make it easier at the table.
Yeah. All right, everybody. So we would love to go ahead and hear your thoughts on our overview here. We're going to continue on. The next video in sequence here is going to be on Chapter 1. Now, we hope that you join us over there. As always, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the notification button. We'll be rolling out these videos over the next few weeks here. So kind of maybe not all at once, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. But yeah, we'll see you in Chapter 1. Thanks for listening.
Good night, all.